Okay, guys, so we've been talking about a lot of really valuable ideas and principles, but now I want to help you put this into action by showing you some real life good and bad cold emails. So in my Facebook community, we have this thing called Roast My Copy, where people sometimes submit their outreach templates or their emails, and we'll roast it. We'll pick apart the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's a lot of fun, and I think it's a really valuable learning exercise to see good and bad ones, because then you can actually see like why are they good, why are they bad. So I'm going to show you some today and show you how they could be improved or what I like about them. And I would encourage you to do this on your own time as well. Start to pay attention to the cold email pitches that you get, or if somebody DMs you on LinkedIn or Facebook, if you like it, like stop and think, okay, why did this get my attention? Or if something like was really awful, then ask yourself, what didn't I like about this? So I would encourage you to do this as well for yourself. You'll see a resource attached for a document of good and bad cold emails. And I'm just going to pick apart a few and tell you, what's good about them or what's not so good about them. So this first one here, this one definitely looks like a long sales pitch. So we're going to start off with the not so great emails. The problem with this email is ultimately it just looks like, a giant sales pitch. First of all, it's super long. And second of all, remember how we talked about earlier how we don't want to be talking about the product that we have and the features and the benefits? All this person is doing is just listing out all of their services, which again, is just going to fly over most people's head. Because again, we have to first realize that we have a problem before we go out looking for services. So, a lot of people do this in their email. I get emails like this all the time of someone just having a bulleted list of all their services. And it's kind of like just throwing a bunch of mud against the wall to see what sticks, right? It's like they're just really hoping that, in some shape or form, I happen to need one of these services and I happen to be looking right now. So yeah, I would say what's not great about this is it's super long, it's super focused on themselves, their company, their services. And even though they're mentioning their services, it's not such a sin to mention your services, but they're not even explaining like what these services are. They're not explaining the benefits or how it helps me. I don't even know what half of these things are. CSP, ISP, ISV, VARs. I've never heard of any of these words in my life. So this is definitely an email that normally would be going in the trash. That's what's not so great about that email is, again, it shouldn't just look like a giant sales pitch. It should really be conversational, and this is definitely not conversational. Here's another email. Someone says, "Hi, AJ Casada." At least they put my name in there. "Do you have any questions about how DMD will increase your business revenue by 30 to 70% in the first 30 days without increasing the ad spend, or we will pay $10,000? Or need help in figuring out if it makes sense to optimize your sales system? We're happy to help you. Choose a time here that works best, and we'll do a quick one-on-one to help you." So what's not great about this is it's just very, very salesy, and also I don't know what DMD is. They started off by saying, "Do you have any questions about how DMD will increase your business revenues?" I've never heard of their brand in my life. Maybe this would work if they were a big brand and very well known, but if they're not, then it's just it's very confusing. What they did well here is they at least had a specific benefit. We talked before about how you want to make the benefit very, very specific and very clear. So at least they said, increase their business revenue by 30 to 70% in 30 days. That's pretty appealing. So I think they did a good job of making the benefit clear. But also, I get emails from a lot of people all the time saying hey, I'm going to help you grow your business. I'm going to help you increase revenue. So it's a pretty saturated market. So there's, I think if you're selling some kind of solution that helps someone grow their business, you need to get a little bit more creative than just saying, "I'm going to help you increase your revenue," because again, everybody's saying that. And then also, what I don't really like about this email is just giving the calendar link. So it's okay to maybe ask someone for a meeting, but I find that when you just throw a link in an email, it's just very, again, rushing through the process. It's also very impersonal. So if you want to, say "Hey, do you have time this week?" But when you just throw your calendar link, it's again, just going too forward, too fast in the process. At least they put a nice smiley face here though. Here's another email that's on the not so great category. Someone says, "Hi, AJ, just checking in with you again." Okay, first of all, don't say that, because we talked about how you want your emails and all your messaging to be very, very short, very, very simple. So try to remove all of the fluff words, right? What I like to do is if I'm looking at a message, I want to look at each sentence and really each word and really, really scrutinize it, right? Does this word add value? Does this sentence add value? What's the goal of this message? And does this sentence contribute to the goal? Saying something like "just checking in with you again," first of all, it makes you sound like a salesperson. No one really wants to be checked in on. And then second of all, there's no value in there. It's not talking about a problem. It's not talking about a benefit. It's not talking about credibility or why this company, is the real deal. It's just fluff words. So actually that's really important. For any of your outreach messaging, after you write it, go back and try to remove as many words as possible. Any word that shouldn't be there, shouldn't be there. Sometimes you can actually cut down your email by half. just by removing a lot of fluff words. So that's where editing really comes in, and it really is worth taking the time to kind of look it over a few times and see if you can shorten sentences or make it more concise or just chop out some words. Because yeah, you can actually make the emails way, way shorter just by taking out a lot of the fluff words. And then they say, this is a great opportunity for you to reach thousands of idea businesses. They meant to say ideal businesses, but they also spelled it wrong. So yeah, always check for grammar, of course. And pay per appointment, only targeting up to 20,000 businesses a month. So the other thing that's not great about this email, or it could be better, is they're saying, you know, hey, we're going to help you target up to 20,000 businesses a month. That's an example of a feature, not a benefit. You know, like I'm not going to be going home at night and talking to my business partner and be saying, hey, I really want to reach 20,000 businesses this month. No, we'd probably say something like, I want to increase the profit by this much, or we like to get 10 more clients before the month is over, right? So 20,000 businesses of their platform, that's a feature, you know, as far as whatever the reach is of whatever they're trying to sell me, but it's not a benefit. So again, always take the features and translate them to benefits. Nobody buys a feature, they buy the benefit that that feature gets you. We find and book qualified meetings via our automated sales acquisition system, which will allow your team to close more deals and increase your overall ROI. Okay, so in the end of it, they put the benefit. They say close more deals and increase ROI. Let me know if you're interested in connecting on a quick call. There's two things that are actually good about this email. Is one, it's short. It could definitely be shorter by taking out a lot of the fluff words. I mean, if you look at the first two sentences, it's all fluff, right? Just checking in with you again, this is a great opportunity for you to reach thousands of ideal businesses. They could change that by just saying, want to reach thousands of businesses, right? They could just cut right to it. So always just try to get right to the action. But anyway, even with that, it's still short. And the other thing that's good about this is that it's a great offer because they say pay per appointment. So it sounds like, I mean, they're not really explaining what they do in the email, which is okay because you don't, I mean, you should give people some idea, but you don't need to be, again, explaining like exactly what you do in the first email. That's okay. But it sounds like there's some kind of marketing agency. And usually marketing agencies charge a retainer like a few $1,000s a month. But it sounds like these people are saying, hey, you only pay for appointments. You only pay for, you know, meetings we generate for you. So that's actually pretty cool. But the thing is, you know, they have a really, really great offer. That should be front and center, right? It's kind of like buried in their message that they have a very unique offer compared to other marketing agencies, and it's kind of hard to find. So if I was to rewrite this email, I would try to really hype on that offer and, you know, make that clear right away. So that's how this one could be better. This one below, yeah, you don't want to send messages like this. This looks like a newsletter. You know, again, you're trying to really just blend into the email inbox, trying to be conversational. So don't send some like fancy designed thing. We talked earlier about the principle of relevance, meaning, you know, offer something to someone that they actually need, right? We're trying to sell the right thing to the right person. And in this email here, I mean, it's not bad. It's short and sweet. Definitely has some fluff words though. Like, I've been contacting you in order to let you know how we can help each other. You could remove all of that and just say, hey, want to reduce costs and development times through a partnership. This definitely doesn't check the box in the relevance category because mobile technology, cybersecurity, blockchain, augmented reality, that has literally nothing to do with my business. So if someone took a look at my website, they would instantly know. So this is an example of bad targeting, right? That's why it's really important to get the hang of, you know, LinkedIn Sales Navigator and using those databases like Apollo, because when you build a good specific list, you avoid this happening of your message going to someone that has zero need at all for your service, right? I mean, like, why would you spend time offering something to someone that just doesn't need what you're selling? This one's okay. I mean, he or she kind of personalized it because they said, hey, AJ, I see you're doing some awesome stuff in the professional training niche. So that's like personalized, but it's not really personalized because he's not saying anything specific. That still definitely looks like a template that he sent out to a lot of people. But at least it's better than nothing, right? But what's not great about here is, I think the messaging is okay because it's pretty conversational. It doesn't sound very salesy. However, he starts off talking about himself, right? Or herself. He says, I'll cut right to the chase. I run a company called this and we specialize in this. So again, you know, when you start talking about yourself, you just sound like every other email. Can't you see how these are all pretty much the same? And also, again, you always have to consider how competitive your industry is when you're writing your copy, because what he or she is offering here is paid ads management. It looks like he's offering Facebook, YouTube, Google, and Instagram ads. There are so many marketing agencies that offer paid ads, and I get emailed by them all the time. If this person was selling a very unique product, then it would be okay just to kind of say what it is. But since this person's offering a service that so many other businesses offer, and it's a very competitive, saturated space, they need to say like what makes their thing different. Because again, I'm getting emailed all the time by people offering to run paid ads for our business. So you have to say something that's like, why are you different or why are you better? Something this person could do is maybe share some results like, oh, we helped this company increase their, return on ad spend by this much, or we helped this company, generate this much revenue from Google Ads. So, case studies, relevant results, that's a great way to help stand out if you're selling a very competitive offer. Okay, so those are the not so great ones that we had to roast a little bit. Here are some good ones. So this is an email that I got recently. The subject line was "saw you on LinkedIn," so that got me to open. And they said, "I just read a wonderful recommendation Chris wrote about you for your patience and collaboration skills. I'm certain you'll make a great co-founder." Okay, so this person actually read some client review of ours, and that's pretty cool. And he says, "The reason for my email is we generate consistent 50 appointments a week for our clients. It's not magic. It's been developed for years. Can I send you more info?" He says, "Have a great day, Andrew." And then he says, "P.S. If that many appointments sounds like too much for your team, our team of closers can manage some of or all of them for you." So what's good about this email is very short. You can also see it's formatted well. It's like one sentence per line. So very conversational, very easy to read. It's personalized. And they have a pretty appealing offer. They said we generate 50 appointments per week for our clients, which is definitely a lot. I mean, most small businesses or small consulting companies like ours, they just get maybe a couple appointments a week. So that's definitely something that will be catching my attention. And then he says it's not magic. It's been developed after many years in the trenches. So that's an example of the credibility ingredient we talked about earlier. It's better if you can actually say like a specific client result or case study. But if you don't have those, if you have a new business, then this is a great example of how you can still, bring up some credibility as to why you're good at what you do without referencing any specific past clients. And then also he has a soft CTA here. So if you saw earlier, a lot of people said, "Hey, book a time on my calendar," and they're instantly asking me for something. But this person says, "Can I send you more info?" So much easier to say yes to that. Here's another good one. Someone says, "Paid speaking gig available now, 50K. Only thing I didn't like about this one is it's definitely deceiving because he doesn't have a paid speaking gig available. Just from the looks of his email, it looks like he has some kind of service that you pay for to get you paid speaking gigs. So yeah, the only problem with this email is it's pretty misleading, which is why I clicked, right? Because if you're very misleading in your subject line, you can definitely get an open, but if you kind of deceive someone, it doesn't leave a good feeling with them, and they're not going to want to actually reach out. So I opened this, but I didn't reply to this guy because I was like, you kind of lied here. But yeah, anyway, so always be careful with what you say in your subject lines, and you can be a little bit dramatic, but make sure it's not it's not actually deceiving the person. But yeah, other than the actual email, aside from that, it's a good email. It's short and sweet, 6 sentences. He said, "Hey, are you available for a paid speaking engagement next month? I've been chatting with event planners. Want to see if you'd be interested in doing a keynote. I've helped speakers book over 1 million in paid speaking gigs." So that's the credibility piece right there. And then he says, "Want to learn how? Book a free one-on-one call with me." And then he added some urgency. He said, "Book now because my calendar fills up quickly." So yeah, it's pretty good, just aside from the whole deceiving part. So this is an email from someone that actually was trying to work for our company. So remember before I said that you don't have to just be doing cold outreach to land clients. You can use it for other things in your business as well. You can definitely use it for recruiting. So this person actually was trying to work for our company. She said, "Hi, AJ, nice to meet you. I came across Revenue Boost on Google. Looked you guys up on LinkedIn. I like what you do in your marketing field and your focus on B2B. I've read a bunch about B2B and I always want to get involved in it. I'm Jennifer from Venezuela. I'm reaching out to you to see if you might have any remote work I could assist with. COVID has been super hard for us here in Venezuela." Yeah, now it's getting into the sad story. So I've been hoping to see if I could get a job working online to support myself and my family. Sounds like you have a great company to work with. And then she says a little bit about her background in social media, graphic design, other virtual assistant tasks. So she's clearly saying, the benefits she can provide to our business. Honestly, we weren't hiring for any of those roles at this time, but if we were, I definitely would have had a meeting with her because, if someone can actually write a really good outreach message to me, then, it's definitely someone that's a little bit ahead of the pack, right? So yeah, I think this is a great message. As you can see, it's super conversational, super personal. She did her research. She looked up our company, commented on it a little bit. And really just got right to the point for how she can help, and then kind of guilted me a little bit by saying the whole COVID thing. And then she provided her bio so I could look up more information if I was interested to hire her. So this is pretty awesome. And then at the end she says, "Could you let me know if you'd be looking to hire anyone, or maybe if you know someone who might." So I think this is great. Again, this is not your average outreach template because this is someone looking for a job, but hopefully you can still see the principles of communication here and copywriting that got my attention. But what I love about this is even though it's kind of long, it's super personal and very, very conversational. So we talked in the previous lesson about personalizing something based on someone's content. So that's what someone did here to me. They said, "Hi AJ, I came across your podcast episode on the After Hours Entrepreneur podcast and love what you had to say. Has it created momentum for you towards media appearances?" So what's great about this is that the thing that he personalized was actually relevant to his offer, because you can see here that he's trying to offer some PR service, like trying to get me some media coverage. So this person did research about me. They obviously saw that PR was important to me because they saw me spending time, doing a lot of podcasts and interviews, and then they tied that into their offer. So yeah, great message here. And then also, it's short, sweet, very conversational. It doesn't sound very robotic. And instead of asking for a meeting, he just said, "Can I share a few examples of our work with you?" So that's, again, an example of a soft CTA. Much easier to say yes to something like that rather than going for a meeting. So again, remember, your goal is just to get a reply, and it's just to get a conversation started. That's a much better way to start a conversation, and this person is way more likely to get a reply rather than, if he said, "Hey, can you book a time on my calendar?" which mostly everyone does. And I already have some contacts for PR, so I didn't reply to him. But if I needed it, this is a great message, a great offer. I definitely would have gotten in touch. Here's the last one that I'll show you as far as one of the good ones. He says, "Hi AJ, I work with other course sellers like you to increase revenue and turn page visitors into recurring paying customers in 45 days or less, or you don't pay. The last sales funnel we built for an online coach is making 17.7K for every 1,000 visitor." He forgot an S there, so always check the grammar. "Would you be open to scheduling a quick call this week to discuss how we can make more people buy your program?" And then he wrote at the bottom, "P.S. I read that you started your sales career at the age of 19. That's really impressive. I bet you learned a lot about the industry and have a lot of perspective to share with others." So see how much of it, imagine you were receiving an email like this. Can't you see how the personalization makes a huge difference and actually kind of builds more of a connection? And it shows that this person actually took their time. So this is a great email, very short. It's also a great offer because he says that, you don't actually pay for it unless we actually make you money. So that's pretty cool. He shared a relevant case study. So he said, a specific result. We actually made this much money for this client of ours. So I think that's pretty solid. Only thing he didn't do here is talk about a problem. He didn't say a lot of course sellers struggle to increase revenue from their website or something like that. So, but even though he didn't open up with a problem and didn't open up with, talking about me, it still was pretty good because the rest of it was pretty good to make up for it. So it's not always like a perfect formula. You can definitely kind of miss some of the marks, but if the rest is good, it can make up for it. So I think this is a great example of that. Good job, Jake. Okay, so that's it, guys. Hopefully that was helpful to see some real life examples of good and bad cold emails, and I'll see you in the next lesson.